So you want to be a new grad in an intensive care unit. I think that's great. As long as you can survive crapping yourself 12 hours out of the day for 6 months straight, do it. I am a year in the intensive care unit as a new grad. If you thought school was hard, I'm here to tell you school was a cakewalk. If you're in any intensive care unit that's worth its name, you will be afraid. You will feel incompetent. You will feel dumb. You will be unfamiliar. You will be a fish out of water. And that's going to happen. That's truly inevitable. You guys have asked me, should I go into the intensive care unit first, or should I get some time on med surg or another unit first under my belt? If you want to go into the intensive care unit within your hospital and you go into med surg or tele first, the way that you benefit is that you learn your hospital. So when I went into the intensive care unit, I went to a hospital out of a completely different state, that had a completely different culture, that had a completely different EMR, that had a completely different Pyxis, a different way of getting meds. So I went into this hospital not knowing anything about this hospital, and it made the challenge of intensive care unit double, because I had no idea where anything was at. I had no idea how they did things compared to how we did things in the hospitals I did my rotations at. So if I had gone into med surg or tele first, I would have been more comfortable with the hospital. But that being said, I still find people who came from tele and med surg and other floors that come into the ICU, and they tell me, we tell our horror stories, and they tell me the mistakes they've made, how afraid they were and how uncomfortable they were. If you have not been in the intensive care unit setting, that feeling of being uncomfortable, that feeling of fear, that feeling of feeling incompetent is inevitable. And some people are better at faking it than others, but everybody struggles when they get into intensive care unit. That's going to happen. So if you're a new grad, like myself, I was not going to go into any other unit. I had made my mind up. I picked the hospital I wanted, but I knew I was going to go to intensive care unit, and thank God I got into the hospital I wanted, and I love it there. But how do I put this? In school, I felt like I was smart. Let me just put it that way. And then I went in the intensive care unit, and I've truthfully never felt dumb like that in my life. It was a hard transition. Maybe it was because I was in a different culture, but that wasn't it. It was concepts and things that we had never delved into. And the intensive care unit is filled with people who are constantly researching and learning and bettering themselves, almost like a competitive atmosphere. A lot of ICU nurses don't like to be wrong. And you're driven to be perfect. Is that negative? I say no, because you should be perfect. Perfect is the ideal. Are you going to be perfect? Absolutely not. Working in an intensive care unit is the best decision that I've made thus far in my life. I would not be able to work anywhere else. As a new grad, I think that you really have to consider where you're at. And again, it also depends on the hospital. Our hospital is very driven to being one of the very best. Like, they're 4-time magnet. So that culture of being perfect is increased tenfold, because that's just the culture this hospital has, and I love it. But my advice for you, if you want to be a new grad going into intensive care unit, you have to have tough skin. You're going to get critiqued, and sometimes it's not going to be in a nice way. People are going to be annoyed that you don't know things. It's going to happen. There's going to be people who are annoyed because you're new and you literally don't know. Number 2 is you have to be prepared to constantly be reading and studying and trying to learn. So you're not really out of school. You're still studying. It's just that no one's telling you homework's due. Number 3, you have to be able to admit when you don't know something. That is an absolute must. You can't go into the ICU and be too confident, too proud to admit that I do not know this, because there is a million things that you don't know, and if you do something when you're unsure of it, you could kill someone. The impact of you making a mistake is huge. It really is. So you have to be able to swallow your pride and admit, I don't know this. My tip number 4 is to not forget your humanity. That might sound weird to you, but it's easy to get hardened after a while, after seeing so much death, and it's frustrating. You can lose your compassion and your reverence for death because you see it so much, but the family members, they don't, and the patients, they don't. So you can't lose that reverence of death. My tip number 5 is preceptors. It's someone else who's been working in the intensive care unit for a while. They know what they're doing. They're comfortable. There's sharks in this water and you're a minnow. Okay, so you want to learn from the shark. So get a preceptor that matches you well. Oftentimes they become your role model. So really pick who do you want to be like and who do you learn best from. Even if it's someone who is known as being mean. Personally, I often love the quote unquote mean person on the unit or wherever, the mean professors. I usually love them because they're dedicated and they're gonna tell you like it is. And that's what I like. I like people to tell me how it is, and so I can fix myself and become better. 6, and this is my big one. I would have wanted someone to tell me before I went into the intensive care unit. Because when I went into the intensive care unit, I thought that I was going to get the sickest of the sick patients. I was gonna study, I was gonna learn, I was gonna work, and they were gonna get better, and it was gonna be awesome. Maybe we'd sit down, have a cup of tea, eat some cookies, and talk about how good of a time it was. I don't know. But I was gonna fix it. They're gonna be so appreciative. They're gonna be like, hey man, thanks for saving my life. I was gonna be like, don't worry, dude, it's what I do. You know, that's what I thought this was gonna be. I was not prepared for what I call the losses. When people ask me what surprises me the most about ICU, what I often say is there's not many wins. And what I mean by that is the outcome is often not what I want it to be. There's so many people that die, so many people that you just cannot save, and it sucks and it eats away at you and it hurts because you wanted to save their life. You wanted them to get better. You wanted their family to have their grandpa, their mom, their brother, their son going home to them. And they're not now, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it eats away at you because you thought you were supposed to save their life. That was your job. That's what you were supposed to do, and it's not happening. And even when you do, oftentimes, even when we do, a lot of times it's not to a good situation. Their quality of life is greatly decreased. I don't consider it a win because it's not, and that eats away at you too. So you have to be prepared for that. The intensive care unit is where you work your butt off. Day in, day out, you work your butt off to keep people alive, healthy, and hopefully get them to a good quality of life. That will not happen as much as you want it to. And you need to be prepared for that. The intensive care unit is where you put 110,000% into someone, into a patient and their life and their family, and you work and you study and you make sure you don't mess up because you could kill them. So you work and you study and you think about them. You go home and you rethink, did I do everything right? Did I do everything right? Did I do everything right? And you think again and again, and you review, and you come in, day out. And after all that, oftentimes you still don't get the outcome you want, and you have to live with that. And I was not prepared for that. I would want anyone who's thinking about going to the intensive care unit as a new grad to be prepared for that. It can be discouraging to work as insanely hard as you do, to think about it all the time, to constantly review, think that you're making some headway, and to not get the results you want can be discouraging. So the rule that I've made for myself, what happens to my patients happens to my patients. The only way that I will let that eat away at me if I did not do my 110% best. If I do my 110% best to do the best for that patient, whether it's coding them, putting on drips, or getting them intubated, or letting them die with dignity, as long as I do my 110% best, I will not let the end result eat away at me, because some things you cannot control even though you want to. So that's my advice to people who want to go into intensive care unit right out of school. It is a roller coaster ride. But what can I say? I love it.